Okay, so welcome. So everybody's talking about my CPA says extend the tax return. So what better day to talk about extension than on the due date, right? So what does it actually mean to you or to me when we have to do an extension on a tax return? So I know a lot of people have different types of conceptions about it, what it means, what it actually means, an extension of return, extension of the payments. So today I really want to kind of go over what does filing an extension mean? What does it actually do for you? Going over why would your CPA suggest something like this? Sometimes, it's really beneficial to do it. A lot of people ask, am I more likely to be audited if I extend? So let's address a couple of these questions. So today, I really want to dive a little bit into extensions, right? So what does it mean? So an extension. So to actually, preface to that, let's just say that in the United States, when you have a business, typically when you have a partnership or an S corporation, they're going to be due if you follow a calendar year, they will be due March 15, or if it's a weekend, the following day, business day. The C corps, along with the individual tax returns, will be due on April 15. This year is going to be April 18 due to falling in the weekend time. And typically, if you follow a calendar year, you will have the nonprofits due on May 15. So, and you have a couple of other due dates in between, depending on types of entity, or if you observe a fiscal year and you don't follow a calendar year. So that's kind of like the basic guideline. So what's legal, what's not legal. A lot of people panic when their CPA says we have to extend. So you have to understand that what's an extension, right? So an extension is a form that you file, say to the IRS. You have a legal right, you have your right to ask for an extension, which they give you an automatic extension for 6 months. Okay, so in the 6 months extends the due date for you to file a tax return. Okay, now this just grants you additional time, right, to make sure that you got a complete and accurate return. You still need to estimate how much money you owe. If you owe money, you want to pay it on the due date. Otherwise, we're going to have some penalties. So here's a couple of things that I hear, and I'll tell you a story that I saw last year. One of our clients that was with us for the first time, he had a prior CPA that was doing an extension for him, and he, instead of doing the full extension, what he did, he filed the return with bogus numbers. They were not even like zeros, they were like bogus numbers. So now the IRS, when you go back and file an actual return with the actual data that you have, now that's a potential risk for you and your business. So make sure that if you have a CPA or you're filing a return, don't assume that, hey, I don't have the right information, I'll just put whatever and I can go and amend it. That's a big risk. I don't want you to fall into the trap and get audited because you just didn't know that an extension is just there for you. Use the extension as it's meant to be. I use extensions all the time and they're really beneficial. There's nothing wrong. It's your right. You're not following the law by filing an extension. So you're not the bad apple. You're not the person who didn't mow their lawn in the neighborhood, who didn't have all the flowers in the front porch. You didn't comply with the neighborhood. It's okay. Okay. So I'm saying this because a lot of people have misconceptions of what that means. Okay. Now let's talk about why your CPA might suggest, an extension. So we typically do an extension automatically for the people who have multiple real estate transactions where it requires a little bit more work that we need to check. Sometimes we have 2 people reviewing a return for the basic reason of, I want to make sure that what's being filed, we're confident on the data that's being filed, and we just don't have enough time to really complete that before filing. So I would rather file an accurate return as a CPA. I would rather sign off on an accurate tax return than a return that's not accurate but is on time, meaning that it's in the due on the extension. Now, a lot of the other stuff why CPA might ask you for, we got to extend, and we're extending by default. Everybody that we owe a return, we haven't heard back with the financials being ready. We're already filing, we already filed an extension at least a week prior to the due date. So the problem is if we don't have it on time, there's a process. Many people don't understand that when you do your own tax return, it's a completely different set of things. as a firm, like you've got a process to follow. You need to reconcile payroll. You need to make sure that the contractors are being reported correctly. We want to make sure the balance sheet, the basis is reported correctly. Unless all this falls into place and it's in line and it's verified and reviewed by a senior, it's not going to make the cutoff. It's not going to make it out the door from a CPA firm. So that's typically why that would be suggested. So don't get, oh, I don't matter, I'm too small for them, or I'm too big, or they're too busy. There's a process in place that needs to be followed for a return to make it out the door, right? So it's just like sometimes there's changes in legislation. Sometimes we need to consult an attorney. Sometimes we want to make sure that, hey, is the position that we took on this right? Do we need to do anything else before we file? In some cases, once you file, it's a done deal, right? So that's just a couple of pieces for you to know, like, why would your CPA recommend that? Okay, I hope that makes sense for you. Now, I have questions, and people have asked me, and I'll have to address this. So people ask me, upfront, say, listen, I know there's a strategy that if you file early, it's first come, first serve for an audit, and I'm going to get audited if I file, between the first people filing for the season. At the same time, there's people who approach me saying, hey, if I extend, I'm going to get audited by the IRS because now I'm on extension. So truth be told, I can support any one of the positions. Having done more than 3,000 audits face-to-face myself individually with IRS agents, I don't know if I've ever seen more of a prevalence in people who are on extension or not on extension. It's really just depending on what you put on that return. How does it make sense? Did you put numbers in? Did you not have accurate information? Did you do stupid things? Is what gets you audited, right? Or sometimes some strategies just have a really high chance of getting picked up for audit. So is that, a rule? I can't say that. I haven't seen any statistical data saying, oh, out of the 1% of people that get audited, in this particular entity type, 50% are this, or 60% are the extension people, and the other ones. So I think it's just more of a, kind of like a rumor or like a myth. What I would say is this: it's better to file an extension than filing a return that is incomplete or inaccurate, or they didn't have time to carefully review your financials or carefully review before signing. So it's not just on the accountant, because when you sign off, you actually say, I've reviewed this return and I agree with what's on the return. You not having time to look through it, it's not an excuse. So if you get audited, that's no excuse. I can go and defend you saying, well, my CPA did this for me and I just did not know, I didn't do it, or whatever the case. It's really no excuse. So make sure you have time to review. If you don't have time to review, do an extension. Do it next week. Do whatever you need to do to make sure it's accurate before you file. That's going to be my number one rule of thumb. So there's some benefits. So really quickly, what would be some benefits for you to extending your tax return? It gives you additional time to file the return without a penalty if you're waiting for missing information, like you have K1s, you've got investments and all of that, right? Or you have a corrected 1099 coming in. Remember, the extension does not give you additional time to pay. It just gives you time to file. Now, sometimes, and there we can go back and forth. Like, how do I know how much am I going to owe if I don't have the final K1, if I don't have X, Y, and Z? Just do the best you can. Sometimes you don't care about the penalties. You're just going to pay when you get the amount, or sometimes you want to pay more. It's all about how confident and how good you feel about owing the money and not owing the money. And everybody has a different position on their money. And some people do not want to pay a penny more to the IRS, and they don't want the IRS to give them a refund. So that's one. The other benefits of extension would be, you might qualify for additional retirement planning opportunities or additional time when you fund specific types of retirement plans, like a SEP IRA. That's another plus. Another plus would be it's often less expensive and easier to file an extension rather than rushing and possibly needing to amend the return later. Because when you have to amend, now you double your cost of preparing a tax return, which is unnecessary. So have an extension done and just do a proper return at before that 6-month period ends. And one of the last pieces that I want to tackle here is, should I do anything differently if I'm filing an extension or going on extension? You should still give your CPA all the information as early as complete as possible as soon as it becomes available. Okay, that's one. What other things you could do is expect to pay anticipated taxes. For example, if I know I'm going to owe money and we have an estimated tax, let's say you owe $90,000 for the year, your withholding was $70,000, you're in the gap for $20K. I would say if you can make the $20,000 payment with the extension, just let your CPA know. Say, hey, I want to make that 20 grand in payment when I filed for the extension, so that can be done. For you, and you don't have that penalty in place, right? So if you're anticipating a very large overpayment, like a refund, right, to you, you want to file it as soon as possible. As soon as all the tax information is done. Just keep in mind that if you pay estimated tax payments and you get an overpayment on the return, there's no penalty. There's only a penalty when you owe money. It's not a penalty when you get a refund, no matter how late you are on that refund. And the IRS will actually pay you an interest, which right now is 7% on the interest. And there are a couple of other pieces that a lot of people are asking on when it comes to extensions. So is there anything that I can do or that you can do to avoid filing an extension if you're missing some information now, right? So, if you know that you're only waiting for one or two pieces of documentation, I would send it all to your CPA and say, hey, can you just do all of this without that K1, without that piece of information that's missing? At least you have a head start that you don't have to wait for whatever the case information that you're waiting for, or a sale of property, or whatever you have that you're waiting on. Okay, and listen, there's one piece that I know a lot of people might not be aware, or they might be aware. In 2022 and in 2023, earlier this year, there were some natural, disasters, or what FEMA calls disasters. So we have so far 3 states. We have California, Colorado, and Georgia, or Georgia and Alabama. Sorry, so California, Georgia, and Alabama. I have to be, I can get corrected on that. But there's 3 states. I know California is one, and Georgia is one. And if you're in one of these states, because of the severe weather, the IRS has given you an additional extension. So without you filing an extension, you have until October 16 to file the first tax return, the first payments due. So use it to your advantage. So if you're in California right now and you owe money, you can use it for another 6 months until you pay the bill. So make sure you understand there's some tax relief in different types of disaster locations in the U.S. There are a couple of hurricanes that happened last year that got some, really advantageous, treatment on when the taxes are due, when the payments are due. So if you don't know about it, talk to your CPA. Now, if you don't have a CPA to kind of have all these conversations and you don't know, why am I being asked this? Why do I have to do this? Make sure you understand the concept. Make sure that you understand what to ask for and how to ask for it to make sure that it's done right for you. Accuracy over time, trumps everything, right? I would say to avoid any type of audit, any type of questions, any type of issues, accuracy is number one. Be on extension and be accurate. Then you can deal with the payments, how much you're going to pay, how much you're going to get as a refund. That's a secondary conversation. I know a lot of people just worry about the payment. So for me, it's like being accurate and being filed properly for the year. So I hope this is helpful. I know it's long on extension, but there's so many questions on extensions that we got, and I wanted to tackle this so everybody understands what's the extension about, what's my personal approach to extensions, and how do I view it, and how do I use it, for the clients that we serve. If you have questions, or you need someone to file an extension for you, or you're looking for a CPA that you want to have a relationship with, do feel free to reach out to us and send a message to me, so we can go ahead and have that conversation one-on-one and get you to see, is that going to work for you or not. I love you guys. Have an amazing time, and I'll see you next week. Until next time.